Hey everyone, this is Peter Holdman. Over the weekend, I picked up a DJI Osmo Mobile 2 gimbal for my phone. I wanted to share my thoughts on that. This is the first gimbal I've owned, so I don't have a comparison between this and any other gimbals, including the original Osmo. But it is kind of a first-time user review of it as well. So the gimbal itself comes in a nice styrofoam case. It's not as good as a dedicated hard case would be, but until I get one, it will keep the gimbal quite safe, I'm sure. In the in the box, you get the gimbal, the styrofoam case, manual, and a USB cable. There isn't a USB charger, but since I've got about 1 million of those around, it's better not to have it. The gimbal itself is made of plastic, but it feels quite solid. I'm not too worried about it breaking. On the gimbal, you'll find a joystick for panning and tilting the phone, record button that works with the DJI Go app and some other third-party apps that support it, a mode and power button that turns the gimbal on and switches between modes, some other functions we'll talk about in a moment, a zoom button, zoom slider that can be used with the DJI Go app and maybe some third-party apps. A USB port for charging on this side and a USB port on the back that can be used as a power bank. The one caveat on that is, according to the manual, you cannot charge the gimbal and use the power port to charge another device daisy-chained. As for apps, you can use the DJI Go app. You can use Filmic Pro. It will work with the built-in app with Instagram if you wanted to do Instagram Live. With those, you get limited functionality. You would just get the different gimbal modes and no object tracking, no time lapses, anything like that. When you start out with the gimbal, the most important part is to get the phone balanced properly in the gimbal. Otherwise, the gimbal is going to be fighting against the weight of the phone. If you find the gimbal vibrating or not tracking properly, the first thing to check is to make sure that the phone is properly balanced. There are two main modes that you'll select with the mode button on here. One, I don't know if DJI calls it this officially, but I've heard it called follow mode, which means as you turn the gimbal, the phone will slowly turn with it. The other mode is lock mode, where as you turn the gimbal, the phone will try to maintain an orientation wherever you locked it. In lock mode, you can use the joystick to pan and tilt the phone. Within the DJI Go app, you can also enable a feature called pitch lock, which means that as you turn the gimbal, the phone will maintain whatever pitch it's set at. By default, if I did this, the phone would start to pitch up. The pitch lock app is, or the pitch lock mode is enabled in the DJI Go app, but once that's enabled, it's enabled on the gimbal itself. So if you're using any other apps, it will maintain that pitch lock. If you press the mode button once, it switches between follow and lock modes. Press it twice and it zeroes the gimbal out, pointing forward and horizontally. Press it 3 times, it switches to the selfie camera. That last function is only available in the DJI Go app, not any third-party apps. Using the DJI Go app, you have access to a few other modes. You have object follow mode. That could be used to follow you around as you're walking, or if you're talking to the camera and moving a little bit. It could also be used for something like a product shot where you wanted to do a kind of slider type motion and have the gimbal automatically follow the object you're shooting. It does take some practice to get the most out of the gimbal. Although it compensates great for roll, it does not compensate for movement up and down and side to side. So as you're walking, you need to learn to get that smooth. I found that bending at the knees and doing a heel and toe walk seems to be the best way to get a smooth walking motion with it. Also, when you're turning the camera, if you just turn it with your body, the turn might lag behind where you want. So I've found that it can be good to either use the joystick to pan or tilt the handle ahead of your turn. With a little bit of practice, you can get that very well synchronized, as you'll see in the shot here in selfie mode. If I turn with it without doing any kind of compensation, it loses me and then picks me back up as I stop. Whereas with a little bit of a twist to it, I can follow myself quite well. App works pretty well. It's missing some functionality like frame rates. You don't have an option for 24 frames per second. You do have 30, 60, and some slow motion frame rates. It does time lapse, hyperlapse, and motion lapse. Motion lapse allows you to set between 2 and 5 keyframes, and the gimbal will move the camera throughout that. Quick demonstration here. We set it up, pick the keyframes, pick the interval between frames, and the length of time we want to shoot. It shows us how long the finished clip will be, and hit go. All in all, I'm happy with the purchase. It's a solid gimbal that adds that smoothness to my videos, is a great tool for motion lapse, hyperlapse, time lapse videos, and I think I'm going to get a lot of good use out of it. Thanks for watching. If this has been helpful, please take a moment to like the video and maybe subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. Thanks.